Ngai ho, and welcome to In Taiwan We Speak, your audio guide to Taiwan's mind-blowing linguistic diversity. I am Alexander Shin, and today in Taiwan we speak Amis, also known as Pangcah. Now, when we talk about Taiwan's indigenous peoples, Amis come up most often. They're the largest indigenous group on the island, comprising a third of all indigenous people. Their homelands stretch along Taiwan's eastern coast, from the northern tip of Hualien County down to Taidong and beyond, while Taiwanese of the Amis background significantly outnumber other indigenous people. Their language, like all others, remains vulnerable. I am joined today by Lahok Ciwko, an indigenous youth who currently works as a research assistant at the Indigenous Students Resource Center at National Taiwan University. Lahok, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thanks for inviting me. Nai ho, I am Lahok. It's so nice to be here to talk with you.
And I'm really excited about this conversation for two reasons.
Yeah.
First of all, I've known you for 4 years.
Yeah, been a while.
But it's only second time that I see you in person because we met digitally. And another reason is, of course, you are my first Amis/Pangcah
Really?
guest. Yes, we have been running this for 1.5 years.
Wow, I'm the very first one.
You're very special. You're the first person from Amis/Pangcah background. And let's start actually with this.
Yes.
I keep repeating Amis/Pangcah, but
Yeah.
why do we have these two words coexisting? What is actually the right way to refer to Amis language or Amis people?
I think either is fine because, the Amis is from, in our language, that means the north. In back to the days, some other people, they want to know who are the people living in northern of Taidong. Say, oh, do you know who are the people living there, the north side? And they may just say Amis. So it's the Amis come from. But actually in our daily life, we use Pangcah more, especially in Hualien County. But in Taidong County, they call themselves more Amis. Yes.
Which is quite unusual because if you think in terms of geography, Hualien is actually in the north.
Yeah.
Which one are you from? Are you from Hualien or Taidong?
Actually, I'm from Taipei.
You're from here. You're from the capital.
Yeah. When talking about my family, originally from Hualien, but as the time my parents want to go to the city to get more chance for education or like a more good job, so they move to the city like Taipei or Taichung. But my family, they choose to come to Taipei. So that's where I'm from, where I was born and grew up. Yep.
I know we often mention, the indigenous homelands where your ancestors are from, but over half of the indigenous population, they actually live in bigger cities, right?
Yeah,
it makes
true.
sense, education and jobs and everything. But it, of course, invites this whole range of conversations about how to preserve your culture or language or identity when you live in these huge cities.
Yes.
Far from the ancestral homelands. You specifically, you quite often talk about these topics and the discrimination that comes with it here, especially in places where indigenous people are more isolated than before, right? Exactly about that I wanted to ask you, and I know you've done research about that as well, about the feeling of being not indigenous enough when it comes to indigenous youth living in bigger cities, right? Urban indigenous youth, as you put it. So how about this double scrutiny that comes from both the Han mainstream society and the indigenous society themselves? How did it affect the way you perceive yourself?
It's not an easy topic to
No,
tell.
it's not.
But I would say it's a long way to have to find yourself because you live the environment that don't recognize your identity, especially if you live in city where lack of the resource about indigenous knowledge or connection. So it's quite hard. For example, when I was in high school, like 16 or 17, my classmates, they often say that, oh, you should look darker, you should be good at sports because you're indigenous, otherwise you are not. or they might think you already live in Taipei, which is a capital city. So you are not like the indigenous we thought like living in a rural area. So you are so modern. So you are not indigenous.
Enough. Not
yeah,
enough.
so as I said, the environment I live in city, in urban, is a lack of knowledge or connection about my roots. When I encounter, I would say, discrimination or microaggression, it's feeling so bad. And it's your everyday life. The worst thing is that you have nothing to fight back because you didn't be taught how to respond those unfair things. It's quite hard. So when that time I was like senior high school students, I feel I'm not enough or I'm getting less and less confidence when talking about indigenous things. I think there's a reason I attend the Indigenous Students Club when I enter the university. But there's another topic that I found that I cannot catch their point. I mean, the thing they concern, the perspective they have, like when talking about the right of land, I cannot realize what authority is. I cannot catch the concept of like decolonization. It's a big word for me, especially I'm from the city. So it's another topic, another chapter you have to catch up to be another imagination of being indigenous. At the same time, people who have lots of experience, lots of connection to their community, they might think I'm the person from city, so you cannot understand us. Even you have the indigenous identity legally, but you're truly not. Like double marginalization. So it's quite hard to feel you're belonging here. The lucky thing for me is that I found the balance. I can do the research to have a chance to know my culture, my knowledge, and also I can live in a city to stand for our rights, what we concern or what we want. So it's my way to find myself in this, like you said, mainstream society and indigenous society.
Growing up, you didn't really have much access to learn about your people's culture or language, right?
Yeah. Because, I think it's a tricky thing is that the city government, they think being modern or being competitive is the most important thing. So they don't take the cultural thing, especially for indigenous culture, for serious. So it's seldom to find any course or chance to learn your roots, your culture, your knowledge. Even my parents, my family, they don't want to talk about it because they have been hurt so seriously when they were young, being the more serious, discriminative environment. Yeah.
You're outspoken about your roots and also the discrimination that still exists in the Taiwanese society.
Yeah.
How did you make your peace with coming from this position of, as you said, a double marginalizing urban indigenous youth to what you're doing now?
Actually, it's a good question, but I don't have a good answer so far because even now I work in the Indigenous Students Resource Center at National Taiwan University. I should do my work for or facilitating our students' rights or their safety in the university. But as a worker or as a research assistant there, I have to be sensitive about the power because the university can be another colonial institution. So I have to be aware. I have to open all my sense to detect, you say something, but something with power is behind your word to improve my students. It's hard to strike a balance or find a peace during those things. I'm not sure, do I answer your questions?
Yeah. And I actually want to continue the conversation on this. So how often do you find yourself in a situation when you need to protect your students? And I want to remind our listeners that we're talking about the top university in the country, right?
Can I say?
Not that it's any indication, but just to give you some context.
I would say protect is my word. I mean, for my student, they might not feeling these things because they still can be happy to learn in the uni or make friends in the uni. I think they might don't think it's a unsafe or dangerous campus here, but I would say that because we are still nothing. We are still invisible. When I ask for more courses about the language or our knowledge, they say, oh, if you want to set up more courses, then the teacher, the professor, they need to have the doctoral degree. But it doesn't make sense. If you have a touch with the indigenous group or indigenous community, you will see it's so hard to get a master degree, not mention about doctoral degree. So in this situation, we can see the people work in the university, they think the knowledge is that you can get your degree or educational background. But if you don't have, maybe you are not a good student, or you are not a good teacher, or you are not good enough to be the professor to do the research or teach the student in the unit. The second thing is that when we talk about counseling, you know, Taiwan, we talk about gender equality, and we now have same-sex marriage. So when the students want to talk about something about sex or sexual issue or their sexual identity, they can go to the counseling center, and we have some counselors specialized about this topic. But when talking about indigenous identity, they might take this, oh, it's just like a family issue or your interactional issue. But there's a huge thing behind this. Those things are like historical trauma, the colonization still happening, and microaggressions still happen. But those professional counselors cannot deal with that.
All right. They just have no idea that this is important.
So where can those students go? The only place they can go is to come to us. So yeah, it's quite hard because we need to build up more space, more safety space, like cultural safety space to our students. But it needs more advocacy to make them move. Yeah.
And you were mentioning microaggressions. Do they happen on campus?
Still. I can share when I was a student. I already changed my ID. I mean, my name officially is my traditional name, which is my indigenous name now.
Or you put it on your ID legally,
yeah.
It's something that indigenous people were allowed to do very recently, right? Because before that you were not allowed to put your indigenous name.
Yeah. But we fight for it, and now we can only shows our native language there on our ID card. But I still have like a Mandarin character and my native name. So here's the thing. I'm a major in social work. So when I was a bachelor student, there is a professor. She always cannot, I don't know, she cannot or she doesn't want. She always call me like, hey. And I know, oh, she's calling me to answer her questions in the class. Something you think maybe it's not a big deal. She just say, hey. But at the same time, she calls other students by their name. Then why I just hate?
When did you realize that she actually couldn't pronounce your name or wasn't trying to learn your name?
I don't know, but it's just a feeling like why you can call others their name like Momo or like in Mandarin, like. But only me is a hey, but I don't want to be hey. I'm not hey.
Hey you.
Yeah, I don't want to be that. I have my name Lahok, so yeah.
Does that happen still? Because your center deals with cases like this, right? Does it still happen that faculty or students have difficulty trying to learn names of their indigenous classmates?
I think it's getting more and more friendly now, but we have to admit that they are very bad at learning our pronunciation. They might pronounce like Lahok, which is incorrect, but it's fine. I think they are trying to learn, and those people who want to learn is getting more and more. So I would say it's getting more friendly, but still some faculty are not willing to learn those things. And it's just a name. I shouldn't say that. It's a name, an easy way to learn different culture. But if you don't want to learn, I cannot expect that you want to learn more about our knowledge, our language.
Is it normal for Taiwanese universities to have a resource center for Indigenous students specifically?
When I was freshman, it is not like many of resource centers around Taiwan in a university. But now, normally you will find centers in each university. So it's getting more and more, but not each center realize that decolonization is a very important thing for their work or for the rights of their students or faculties. So yep, it's getting more and more, but not each of them know this matters. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lahok, for sharing. And dear listeners, that's it for today. But of course, we do not end our chat with Lahok just yet. So join us next week as we continue our conversation about these very important topics. Thank you everyone for tuning in.